My name is Robert Holden, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Hay House World Summit, 100 Conversations with 100 Authors. Conversations for your soul. Conversations to conjure up the possibility of miracles. Conversations that allow us to fully inhale and exhale to take a deep breath of life. Today I'm talking to Alan Cohen. Alan is the author of 20-something inspiring books. I have an Alan Cohen section here on my bookshelf. I can see them from where I'm sitting. There's The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore there. I Had It All the Time. A Deep Breath of Life. A Daily Dose of Sanity. Enough Already. The Power of Radical Contentment. Handle with Prayer. Harnessing the Power to Make Your Dreams Come Through. Joy is My Compass, which I think was the first one that I ever read. And there's another one up there, Are You As Happy As Your Dog? Co-written by Alan Cohen and Munchie, a Pomeranian dog called Munchie. God bless Munchie. I first met Alan, I think it was around 1996, 97. Alan was over in the UK giving a keynote to the Miracle Network, which hosts events for A Course in Miracles. He gave a talk on A Course in Miracles and abundance. It was completely inspiring. Over the years, we've shared a stage a few times and given some talks together, but more importantly, we've shared a friendship that I draw great strength, comfort, and inspiration from. Alan and I are both students of A Course in Miracles. It's one way that we get to share our love of truth together. Alan's book is called A Course in Miracles Made Easy. And this is the book that I think so many students of the Course and people who have been interested in the Course but haven't dared to get too close have been waiting for. It's a fabulous, fabulous book. Alan, welcome. Thank you for joining me for this conversation.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Robert. It's my honor to be with you.
It's nice to reminisce. You came over, it was in the mid-90s, I think, to give that talk. Yeah, and we had a talk a few days back just to consider what it is we might like to talk about for this hour together. And I think we both agreed that we didn't really need to look any further than A Course in Miracles, and just to really talk about your relationship to A Course in Miracles. I think it's so helpful for all of us to understand, to learn and to get tips about how to relate to this mighty tome in such a way that we can bring it into our daily life. And when there's a great temptation, I think, with the Course to be overwhelmed by it, is actually to be empowered by it. And so I just wondered if we could begin with just how did you first come across A Course in Miracles?
Well, that was a miracle. And before we go ahead, I want to preface this by saying that the content of our conversation today is not just about the Course. We're going to format it around the Course, but really the principles are so universal and so ubiquitous and so deep and so transformational that anyone can benefit from what we're going to share, regardless of whether they ever see the Course or not. So I want to open the door to everyone to enjoy it, even if they never study the Course. Many years ago, I think it was 1980-ish, 81, 80, I had been hearing about A Course in Miracles, and I was frankly skeptical because I had seen too much charlatanry and New Age wizardry and manifesting stuff and get stuff. And I thought, oh, come on, I don't need that. And then I saw an article in the magazine called Psychology Today about the Course, and it showed these 3 golden books floating from heaven. This person walking on the street. And I thought, oh, God, how hokey is that? But I read the article, and something spoke to me, and I now recognize this as what the Course calls the Holy Spirit, that there was there was something in the universe that was getting my attention. It just said, do this, do this, do this, do this. And at the time, it was quite expensive. It was $40 for 3 hardcover books. And in those days, I was on a very minuscule economy. I was paying $150 rent, and that was it. And I thought, wow, $40, that's a lot. But once again, the voice said, just do this, just do this, just do this. And it was one of those things where the intuition overrode the intellect, which is indeed one of the lessons of the Course. And so I sent away, and I remember it was a cold winter night, and it came in a little cardboard box. Do you remember those days, Robert? Did you see that edition?
No, I didn't. This is riveting for me. No, I came to it later. So
yeah, it came in 3 blue hardcover books in a little cardboard box. And I opened the cardboard box, and I opened the introduction to the text. I read, "This is A Course in Miracles," and something about that one paragraph at the beginning. It just jumped out at me, like, the old Batman cartoons where Batman would punch the guy and it would be a big pow. And I just felt this big pow come, like, oh my God. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what I was getting into, but it just kind of shook me to my core. And the voice said, "This is going to be really important for you." So, and it was. And, the rest, as they say, is history. That was 35 years ago. And so that was my introduction to the Course.
Now, it strikes me that, the Course it's a publishing phenomenon in the sense that it's sold millions of copies all over the world, but it's hardly been read by anybody. Because we seem to be so easily put off. Did you have any difficulty like that in the beginning?
Not in the beginning, but just over 35 years. I joke. I say, the Course says it's a 1-year course, but I'm such a terrible student. I'm at it for 35 years and still going at it. So I've certainly had my share of resistance. I never stopped doing it, but I mean, as I've gone along, I've certainly had stubbornness and resistance and fear and judgment and all that goopy stuff that gets in the way of the Course.
Mm-hmm. And because, of course, the Course is these 3 sections predominantly, I guess, the text and the workbook and then the manual for teachers. Where did you begin? Where did you start with the book?
I started with the text, and I would kind of flit around and open a section here and there. But, over the years, I've discovered, Robert, that the real key to the Course is doing the workbook. And, I wrote this book, A Course in Miracles Easy, because as you have heard, as you well know, so many people tell me, oh, I bought the Course, and I know it's a great course, and I know it can save me, I know it can change my life, but I just couldn't get through it. And one lady told me, I put the book on, I bought the book and I put it on my shelf, and then I opened it and the receipt fell out, and it was from 10 years earlier. And so it sat on the shelf for 10 years, and then she got into it. So, so many people tell me that, and I tell them, look, this course can really change your life in the most magnificent way. The key is to do the workbook. Just, even if you haven't done the text, or do the text here and there with the manual for teachers, just start on day 1 and keep going. Don't stop. And I promise you, if you do it sincerely, something will happen inside you, and your life will change from the inside out. So I really, I'm a big cheerleader for the workbook, and of course the other books as well. But the workbook's the thing that makes it real.
Yeah, that was the same for me as well, Alan. I really took the advice of the Course, which was essentially don't try and understand this. Just do it and give yourself to it in a way. Just give yourself to it and let it have its effect on you, I suppose, wasn't it? And try and stay the course, so to speak. And it's very intriguing, I think, that there's a phenomenon called change blindness, which is where the ego refuses to see how it's grown, where we dismiss how we've grown in our life. And I was aware gradually that this book was having an effect on me. I couldn't have told you that at the time of doing the lessons I was particularly experiencing some great effect, but I would begin to notice that the way I was showing up in the day was slightly different. I wonder, how was it for you? What were the early benefits, if you like, of practicing the Course?
A lot of it came in my relationships because I had some fairly painful relationships. And as you well know, the Course addresses relationships quite a bit. And it says our relationships are the key to healing. And I remember I was in one relationship that was just driving me crazy. It was a yo-yo roller coaster, up and down, on again, off again, pain, misery, joy, ecstasy, one of those horrible things that they call love. And of course, that wasn't real love. And the Course says that there are two kinds of relationships, basically. One is what it calls special relationships. And the Course's word for special is different than what most people use. And the Course says that we tend to give our power away, and we tend to identify a person as the source of our happiness, or a baseball team, or a job, or a house, or money, or a car, or something like that. And it says that we define ourselves as needy, or broken, or lonely, or lost, or incomplete. And if we could just find that one person, that perfect person, that will make everything all right. And as you well know, every romantic novel and movie is about this. And, I think that line, "you complete me," set Course students back quite a bit, because it's like the worst movie line ever, because, what it's saying is, I'm empty and you can complete me, and then I'll be okay. But the flaw in the formula, as the Course astutely points out, is that if you can complete me, then you can also uncomplete me. And so when you're doing what I want you to do, it makes me happy, I'm in heaven. But then when you don't want to do what I want you to do, it puts me in hell. And the Course says this is not real love. It said this is the ego's game of seeing itself as needy and having something on the outside, which the Course also calls magic. And then the Course contrasts this by saying there's another kind of relationship, and it's called a holy relationship. And in a holy relationship, we don't give our power away. We retain our wholeness. We retain our joy. We recognize that all the good we seek is already within us. It's already given to us by virtue of our identity as children of God. And so we can certainly be married and have sex and have babies and have houses and have careers and all that kind of stuff, but not at the expense of our joy. And so when we bring a sense of completeness to a relationship, when we join with somebody else who sees him or herself as a complete as well, then you have a chemistry that far transcends the ego's mandates, and it's constantly encouraging us to transform our special relationships to holy relationships. And so to answer your question, to circle around, I was in a relationship that was just driving me crazy, and I kept going back to the Course and reading the sections on special relationships, and it said, just have faith in your brother, have faith in your brother, have faith in your brother, see the good, see the love, see the appreciation. And boy, that cut away a lot of the goop, and I began to transform that relationship, which didn't last forever, but it was like a learning relationship for me to practice switching from specialness to holiness.
Yeah, wow. Another question that's just occurred to me is, how do you describe A Course in Miracles to people? Because it's so big, isn't it? Like, what's a description that you're happy to share with people when they say, what's that?
I tell them it's a self-study system of therapy or spiritual transformation that shifts your vision from pain and suffering to joy and healing, and releases us from the troubles and sorrows that the world seems to impose upon us by showing us how to forgive and let go and love and claim our identity as divine beings.
Wow, so nice, Alan. So nice. Not just the words, but the way you say it. The way you say it. I wonder if we could give people a taste of the Course, if there's a lesson or a passage or some excerpt that you'd be happy to share with us.
Well, I have so many favorite lessons. One that keeps coming back to me is lesson 50 from the workbook. I am sustained by the love of God. And, the Course is holographic, as you know, Robert, and really any lesson will take you to the truth of all the lessons. So I tell people, if you get hung up on one lesson, forget about it, because you got 364 others that will really take you home, if you like. And there are so many things that I think I need from the outside world to be sustained by. I think money sustains me, or my partner sustains me, or my home sustains me, or my government sustains me, or my doctor sustains me, or my dog sustains me, which is it's the only true one, actually. But what it's saying is that you are covered, that you are absolutely loved. You live under the law of grace, not karma. The Course takes us beyond all these notions. Oh, I have to pay off my karma.
Alan, I've got to stop you, if I may, right there. That is brilliant. Tell me that bit again. So we live under the law of grace, not karma. I'm sorry, I can't let that bit go. Tell me about that.
Okay, well, this is big. I'm glad you stopped me, because it's really big. So the Course tells us that grace is the abiding reality of the universe. And grace means that you are completely loved. You are completely deserving of everything good. You are not required to pay for anything. You are not required to suffer or sacrifice or lose or pay for anything. Everything, health, love, abundance, life, is given to all of us freely and infinitely, without condition, forever. And it says all other belief systems, including karma, really take a back seat to the presence of grace. And as you well know, Robert, a lot of people use karma against themselves. And, it's a concept that works on one level, but on a bigger level, it doesn't hold water, so to speak. And so we hear people say, I'm suffering in this terrible marriage because in 1733 I abused my wife. Which may be true, but it doesn't mean that, you have to use that as an excuse to justify suffering now. And the Course says at any moment, you can walk out the door from all of your beliefs about any karmas that you think you owe or other people owe us. So, the Course really transcends these stories and rules and that we made up that only keep us small and only hurt us. And so, I'm actually working on another book now called The Grace Factor, which takes everything beyond what we thought it was. So there you go.
Wow. Thank you. That's absolutely beautiful. Shall we, let's share some of the lesson. Shall we? Lesson 50?
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about that one now? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we just maybe read some of it and just because it's so beautiful.
Do you have it handy? Would you care to read it?
I do. Yeah, I've got
please.
it. I've got it right here. Yeah.
Please go right ahead.
Why don't I just I'll take the first couple of paragraphs. This is a lesson called I Am Sustained by the Love of God. Here is the answer to every problem that will confront you today and tomorrow and throughout time. In this world, you believe you are sustained by everything but God. Your faith is placed in the most trivial and insane symbols, like pills, money, protective clothing, influence, prestige, being liked, knowing the right people, and an endless list of forms of nothingness that you endow with magical powers. All these things are your replacements for the love of God. All these things are cherished to ensure a body identification. They are songs of praise to the ego. Do not put your faith in the worthless. It will not sustain you. Only the love of God will protect you in all circumstances. It will lift you out of every trial and raise you high above all the perceived dangers of this world into a climate of perfect peace and safety. It will transport you into a state of mind that nothing can threaten, nothing can disturb, and where nothing can intrude upon the eternal calm of the Son of God. Put not your faith in illusions. They will fail you. Put all your faith in the love of God within you, eternal, changeless, and forever unfailing. This is the answer to whatever confronts you today.
Wow. Thank you for reading that. As you were reading, I was thinking of two very practical applications of that lesson, if I may share them. One was a friend of mine named Cliff Klein, who was an avid course student, and he told me that one night he was sitting in his Brooklyn apartment living room, and he heard a noise in the bedroom, and he went in the bedroom, and there was a burglar breaking in. And when he saw Cliff, he started to run, and Cliff said, wait, you don't need to run, I'll help you if I can. So the guy stayed, and Cliff said, what's going on in your life? He said, well, I lost my job, and my girlfriend left me, and I'm out of it, and I need help. So Cliff said, come on, let's have some coffee. And they sat down and just talked about the guy's life. And Cliff, gave him a coaching, healing session and gave him $20 and said, come back if I can help you again. The guy walked out the front door. And I thought, wow, and the Course tells us that every moment is a choice between fear and love. Every word we speak, every thought we have, and every action we take represents either fear or love, and everything else is a derivative of one of those two. And there's a situation that could have easily gone dark. And, Cliff chose love, and that transformed the entire, he turned an attack into a miracle. And this is what the Course is all about, taking situations in our daily life that we perceive as attacks and seeing them through the eyes of Christ, as the Course says, or the eyes of love, and transforming them. And the other situation they always like to cite is, many years ago I saw a video of Mother Teresa, and there was a war in Beirut at the time, and there was a hospital for children. And she announced that she was going to go into that city and extricate those children from the war zone. And when the warring factions heard about this, they declared a truce. And I saw this video of Mother Teresa and a couple of trucks of her nuns driving through the streets of Lebanon, and soldiers from both armies were standing by the side of the road with their arms down as they respected this woman who went in, and she and her nuns took the children out of the city, and the moment she left, they went back to shooting each other. But the point is that her faith and her vision and her love were so strong that she had the power to disarm two armies. And she knew that she was sustained by the love of God. She needed no protection but the protection of God, and that's what she manifested.
That's really extraordinary. I'd not heard that story before, Alan.
Yeah.
That really is quite something, isn't it? It strikes me. Well, firstly, this idea that, or this observation, really, that we've got a choice between fear and love in any situation. I remember personally, when I first read that, I was fresh out of 6 years of psychology training, where I'd basically been taught that there were thousands of states of mind, and that the human mind is very complicated, and it's getting more complicated by the moment, and we're discovering new diagnoses, so much so that we're needing to create new versions of our Bibles of diagnosis. It was, and here was this radical idea that actually, if you look closely enough, behind all of this is simply a choice of fear or a choice of love. And I remember just thinking, I can't take this on faith. I've got to examine this, because if this is true, then we are being shown a way out of all of this. And the more I looked, simple things like even just asking for stuff from people, for instance. You know, that there would be a voice that would say, don't ask, and then there'd be another voice that would say, it's okay to ask. And just recognizing, yeah, that was fear and that was love.
Right.
It's just, I mean, you know, the course is, well, it's some 1,200 pages long, and so therefore you could say it's complicated, but actually it's devastatingly simple too, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's extraordinary.
And I'm glad you brought up psychology, Robert, because I studied psychology well, and so did you, and so a lot of our listeners. When I went to Greece several years ago, my hostess asked me, do you know what the word psyche means? And I said, well, yeah, it means the mind. She said, no. She said, the word psyche is a Greek word. It's actually pronounced psyche, and it means soul. It does not mean mind.
Yep.
And so real psychology, if we really want to go for the heart of psychology, it has to go to the soul level. And as you well know, you can just be running around the rat wheel of the mind forever. It goes nowhere. But when we drop into the level of the heart and the soul and the spirit and who we truly are behind our psychological games, then we remember where we come from, and we have the leverage and the platform to change our lives and truly heal.
Yeah, and you know, in the Oxford Companion of the Mind, which is a massive, mighty tome, as big as A Course in Miracles, in the index there is no listing for soul. It's just not even there. I mean, so not only did it not make the curriculum, it doesn't even make the index.
Wow.
And personally, I think I found the course at a point when I was disillusioned, and I think the disillusionment was because I was trying to heal psychology with psychology.
Yeah.
And I think the course offers us something else, and part of that is learning to distinguish between the voice of fear and the voice of love. I wonder if you could give us a little bit of coaching around this. How have you learned to distinguish between these two voices?
Well, this is a great question, which is often asked at seminars and coaching sessions. And I've come up with a pretty good analogy that people seem to like. And it begins by recognizing that fear has a unique vibration to it. It has a unique feeling, a unique effect. It just feels a certain way, even if it's couched in lovely words, which it has the ability to do. The devil quotes scripture. On the other hand, love feels entirely different. It has a whole energy to it, a whole different effect. And the analogy I give is, imagine that your best friend is Susan, and one day someone phones you and does not say, and says, "Hi, this is Susan," but you know it's not Susan because it's not Susan's voice. And that person says, "Hey, something has come up. I need you to meet me at Starbucks in an hour." Would you go? Well, of course you wouldn't, because that person was an imposter. You know Susan's voice, you know Susan's energy, you know how it feels to be with her. Then imagine that an hour later, the real Susan calls, and she doesn't even say, "Hi, I'm Susan." She just says, "Hey, I need to talk to you, meet me at Starbucks." And now, would you go? Well, of course you would. And the idea is that Susan's voice feels friendly and familiar and safe and comforting, and it always takes you to a good place. The other voice, even though you didn't play it out, was not friendly and comforting, and it was an imposter. So I invite people to try these different voices on for size. And if a voice is speaking to you from inside your head and is demanding or threatening or scary or compulsive, or it just feels like you're trying on a suit and it doesn't fit, it's too tight, it's choking you, even though it says, "Hey, this is a beautiful suit and it's cheap," it's not it. But there are other voices that when you try them on, they feel like coming home. They feel like, I can live with this. They feel a sense of relief and release and peace. And so I invite people not to listen to those voices in terms of the words they're saying, but in terms of the energy that they're offering and the results of how they feel inside you when you try them on. Love feels one way, fear feels another.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I wonder if really this is just about paying attention, isn't it? in some ways, we just need to pay attention. And it's a curious thing, but I love what you say, the devil quotes scripture, but it is in the sensations in the body, the feelings in the heart. These are where the clues are. Very interesting.
I heard about a Japanese businessman who makes decisions in this way. If he has an option, if he has a decision to make, he'll have dinner, and he'll notice while thinking about the one option or the other. And after dinner, he notices how he feels, and if he gets indigestion, then he assumes that the choice he was considering was not it. If he feels relaxed and peaceful and goes to sleep well, then he decides that's it. And it's kind of a gross analogy in that, the fear-based decisions create indigestion, just not stomach indigestion, but soul indigestion. You can't live with it. It just feels like, I can't marry that guy. I can't buy that property. I can't make this deal because something inside me is saying it just feels off. It feels wrong. It feels like it doesn't belong to me. And then, by contrast, when something comes along that does feel, this belongs to me, this feels like I'm coming home, this is me, this is something I can live with.
There are so many wonderful lessons in the Course where we are encouraged to be receptive and open to this constant guidance that is available to us, the idea that God's voice speaks to us all through the day. And you talk about this in the book, in particular in the chapter Your Impeccable Guide. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about, because it feels to me the spiritual path, implicit in the spiritual path is this understanding, this inkling maybe of an understanding that my intellect doesn't know enough to guide me for the whole journey. It has its place, but we have to rely on something greater than the intellect for guidance. Maybe if you could tell me a little bit about how do you nurture, cultivate, and enjoy a sense of spiritual guidance in your life?
Great question. You remind me, one of my favorite lines in the Course, and the Course is funny. I mean, Jesus has a sense of humor, and one of the lines I love is, you cannot be your own guide to miracles because it was you who made them necessary in the first place. So the voice that got you into trouble is not the voice that's going to get you out of it. And so what the Course is saying is that the good news is that there is a voice within you, deep within you. It's a loving, wise, pure voice that is speaking to us. And one of the lessons is God's voice guides me throughout the day. And what it's saying is that inner guidance, impeccable intuition is broadcasting like a radio station 24/7. At every single moment, love is calling to us. But the question is, do we have our radio tuned to that frequency? And so all the Course asks us to do is to do what we can to line up with the frequency that can help us. And so, there's many different methods as there are people. What I do is I meditate every morning. I do a Course in Miracles lesson. I listen to music. I do yoga. I have puppy therapy. We walk our dogs many times a day. And I'll tell you, if you ever want to see a pure expression of God in the world, just look at a happy dog. I mean, to me, that's the affirmation that life can be good if we let it. I engage in uplifting conversations with my beloved. We watch uplifting videos. We play, we laugh, we go out to dinner with friends. And so what I'm saying is that anything that relaxes you and calms you and opens your heart and gives you a sense of ease, in that space, you are most receptive to real guidance. And when people call into my radio shows, I know they do yours, Robert, and they ask me, I'm just so stuck and I'm so messed up and I can't do anything and I have no passion. I know what's next. I say, well, tell me 2 things you do that put you in a state of ease. I like to walk in the woods and I like to dance salsa. And then I say to them, okay, the Lord is now speaking to me. I'm getting a message for you. And I say, I'm getting pure guidance from the highest heaven of what you should do. Do you have your pencil? Yes, yes. Okay, I'm now going to tell you what to do. What is it? What is it? What is it? Okay, the Lord is telling me that what you need to do is walk in the woods and go to salsa class. And I'm being facetious, of course, when I tell them that, but the truth is that they already have a doorway to clarity. And if you can just get off of the judgments of what you should be doing and follow what Spirit is guiding you to do by the voice of joy, then, as Abraham says, you're in the vortex. Then you have an open mind and a clear field for that intuition to land on. One more analogy I'll offer. Someone said, imagine that all of your good is trying to land on a runway. All of your good is in this big 747, all the love and stuff and sex and marriage and stereos and cars and everything that you ever wanted is trying to land on the runway. But meanwhile, you're running up and down on the runway. You say, come on, land here. It's time to land. Why don't you land yet? Come on. And if you just get your butt off the runway and be relaxed, the plane would have a clear space to land. But you're busy telling it what to do, and it already knows what to do. I know I'm going on for a bit here. Can I give one more analogy? May I,
please?
Yeah. This is just a funny one. Many years ago, I was sitting on an airplane, and I was speaking of airplanes, and I was ready to take off, and the pilot announced that there was delay, and the pilot said, if you want to listen to the communications with the tower, you can go to Channel 9. So I was sitting next to this man who was obviously not an experienced flyer, and he was really nervous about this delay, and he was fidgeting on his cell phone. He just didn't know what to do, and he was listening on the headphones to the communications. And after a few minutes, he presses the button and calls the flight attendant, and she comes over. Yes, sir. He says, I've been listening to the communications, and the tower just gave the pilot permission to take off, so please tell me he can take off now.
Oh, no.
And it's really true. Really true. And I thought, my God, the pilot already knew when to take off. And so I wrote this whole article or chapter on it called, Just Let the Pilot Fly, Would You?
Oh, wow.
And you don't have to tell the pilot how to fly the plane. It's already well trained. So you can literally sit back and relax and trust that pilot's going to get you where you want to go when you need to get there.
Oh, my God, that is too good. Oh, my goodness. Great story. You are a master of picking up the bits and pieces from every day and presenting them to us as spiritual teachings. You did that particularly, I think, with a deep breath of life. And then you gave it to us again in like a daily dose of sanity. And in all your books, I love how you just present to us the stories of everyday life to show us that actually life isn't, in spite of our conspiracy theory that life's trying to make it difficult for us, actually life's trying to teach us the whole time.
Yeah.
And that is one of your just your great signatures talents, that you show us that life is trying to teach us and bless us and guide us every time, but we just have to pay attention.
Yes, thank you so much. And that word conspiracy, there really is a conspiracy, but it's working on our behalf. The word spiracy means to breathe together. And so we can start breathing together, we discover a whole new world that's available to us that's not available when we're in fear and our breathing is constricted.
Now, the Course encourages us to offer miracles, to be a miracle worker, to share essentially what it is that we have received with the world. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that, and in particular, I think about how spirituality meets the world.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. That's one of my favorite chapters. It's called How to Be a Miracle Worker. And the idea is that the Course in Miracles considers each of us a miracle worker, that you don't have to be a Sai Baba or a Jesus to work miracles, that you, every day, we have 1,000 opportunities to give love instead of fear. And the Course says that miracles are the result of choosing love rather than fear. And, so every encounter is potentially a miraculous encounter. The other day, my lesson was, I give miracles and I receive them, paraphrased. And I went out for the day, had a day off, and I decided to take myself to the beach and to lunch. And during that day, 3 people approached me for help, which is unusual. And as I was sitting on the beach, a woman came up to me and asked me if it was a dangerous beach to swim at. And I said, no, it's a good beach. And as I was leaving the parking lot, this fellow said he had lost his parking ticket. Did I have one? And I didn't, but I gave him a few bucks to pay his ticket. And then when I went out to lunch, this elderly gentleman who was almost blind, it seemed, was looking for the optometrist in that little strip mall, and I helped him find that little office. And it's interesting, Robert, that when I went to sleep that night, I did my daily review. Those were the 3 moments that really made my day wonderful. And it's interesting because I went to a Hawaiian beach, which a lot of people would consider, a cool thing to do, and I went out to lunch at a nice place, which is a cool thing to do. But those 3 little moments of connecting with somebody and in some way making their life a little easier, that brought me such a soul fulfillment that it was on the basis of those 3 moments that I decided my day was worth living. And so the Course says that there's never any absence of opportunities to give love, and when we choose that instead of fear, miracles happen, not only in the recipient of the miracle, but you receive the blessing of the miracle as you give it. That's my idea.
When we were talking recently, you shared a beautiful quote by Abraham Joshua Heschel.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, he's a great Jewish theologian, and he said, when I was a young man, I admired people who were clever. But now that I'm an old man, I admire people who are kind. And that quote touches me because it's mirrored my own evolution. The older I get, the more experience I get, the more I value kindness, because I've had moments when I've been hurting and in pain and lost and confused and stuck. And somebody came along and showed me grace when I didn't expect it. And that moment was pivotal in my life. So, it's inspired me to give kindness and grace where I can. And certainly those moments are the moments that make life alive.
It's something that I think has caught up with me too, this appreciation for the kindness. And I remember reading years and years ago, in fact I put the story into Happiness Now, where Aldous Huxley was being interviewed by a young journalist and was being asked essentially to sum up his theory of life and his observations of life. He had been working in psychology and philosophy for about 60 years, I think. And he said something to the point of, it's a little embarrassing to say this, but I would have to conclude, try to be a little kinder to each other.
Yeah.
That seemed to be it. Try to be a little kinder to each other.
Wow.
And I was so moved by that, because I thought, here is somebody who's articulate, who's an academic, who could, quote all sorts of people and give us some great theories that we could barely understand perhaps, or that would be some complex meditation or contemplation for us to take forward into our lives. But he stripped it right back, and I suppose actually in a way it was his own way of coming back to love or fear again, really.
Yeah, it's a great story. Yeah. There was another philosopher, the source of which is questionable, but someone said, be kind because everyone is fighting an inner battle. And some battles are obvious and some battles are invisible to the physical eye. But everyone is struggling with something, subtle or dramatic. And, a lot of that struggle is because people have not been kind to them. People have not shown them grace or forgiveness. So if you can come along and show this person even a little kindness that they did not receive from their parents or their teacher or their religion, that can be the liberation of a lifetime. And the Course also says that when you give a miracle, it may go on to affect thousands of people you never know about. So we have to see with the spiritual eye more than the physical eye.
A Course in Miracles encourages us to pray. Prayer is described as the medium of miracles. And I'm just curious about your relationship to prayer. Do you pray any of the prayers of A Course in Miracles, or are your own prayers in some way influenced by the teaching of the Course?
Well, I think all prayer takes us to the same place, so the form of the prayer is less important than the intention and sincerity behind the prayer. There's a lovely prayer on page 28 of the text, which has colloquially become known as the Healer's Prayer. And I teach it to my coaches, people I'm training to be life coaches. And may I share it now over the interview? Listeners, if you can get this prayer and use it, I promise you sincerely, with every fiber of my being, this will change your entire life as much as you apply it. And the Course says, whenever you're facing a situation in which you're unsure what to do, and this could be a divorce negotiation or a job interview or a health choice, it says, say these words. It says, I am here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent Him who sent me. And if you don't like Him, you could say her or it or spirit or life, whatever you like. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I'm content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. And I personally say that before every radio show, before every interview, before every coaching session. And my coaches report that they use it all over the place, and it just creates phenomenal results. And so that's one form of prayer. But certainly, you can say, God, just show me what to do here. Show me what's right. God, just help me. Just reveal to me what wants to happen by virtue of the love and wisdom of Spirit. That's a really good prayer. So, I tell people, just pray from your heart. You can talk to God. There is an energy or an entity or a consciousness that hears our prayers and answers them. You can develop a very real, intimate, personal relationship with God. God is not just science. God is also love.
Wow. That's I can see that one on your Facebook page, by the way. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. This prayer is one of those prayers, I think, for every situation, every relationship where you feel that it might be a smart move to rely on some inspiration as well as your best thinking. It's a great prayer. It's a great parenting prayer, I can tell you that. That's for sure. When just one of the strange things about being a parent, Alan, is that what worked yesterday isn't working today. And you just, one of these prayers, it just seems to be, it takes us from psychology to something greater. It's which is the essential, another Greek term, the metanoia, the shift from a ego identity to a soul identity, is what the Course is offering us. And I love what you said, by the way, right at the beginning. I think one of the reasons why I'm so thrilled and comfortable teaching about the Course is that the Course doesn't ask us to choose it over anything else. It's in a way, I think, a very clean system, in the sense that it says it's a Course in Miracles, not the Course in Miracles.
Right,
and it's offering us something that is perennial, something that can fit, I think, with any teaching that fundamentally recognizes that there is a self greater than the ego.
Well said. And you and I, the other day, were talking about which self are we really? And there's a small self with a small s and a big self with a capital S. And what I was saying, I think you were agreeing, was that the small self is really, if you're into self-help, the small self is not going to take you there. At some point, you have to allow the big self to come in and guide you as your true self. And that's when transformations really start to happen.
I'm so thrilled that this book exists, A Course in Miracles Made Easy. I think all through your books you've been, you've tipped your hat to the Course and always, shared with us how important the Course is. And I just feel, though, that what you've done in this book as well is just to give us all a chance to befriend and be befriended by the Course and benefit from it, in our own way, but benefit from, how you've benefited from it, really, Alan. Yeah. And how lucky we are to be in service, I suppose, in the world when we are inspired by these great texts and these great teachings. It is a privilege, isn't it?
It is. I think I worked harder on this book than any other book, Robert, because I really wanted to get it right. I mean, when I say harder, I don't mean it was painful. I just mean it was a labor of love. I just really wanted to be impeccable in transmitting the message of the Course as well as I could. And I thought, boy, if I could help people in some way who are approaching the Course and maybe feel overwhelmed by it, and kind of lubricate their way through, so to speak, and help them come out on the other side of resistance or fear or density, and support them to get the benefit of this massively universal healing teaching, I thought that would be a great legacy. Not that I'm planning to go anywhere, but that would be a real contribution that I think would make my life worthwhile. And I'm happy to say that I'm getting good reports about it. And so once again, the book is not just for people who want to do the Course in Miracles. It's for people who want to learn to live in love. And however you do that, is fine with me. But the principles in this book can really help.
I wonder if we may just finish up with it's a spacious place to finish, I suppose, but it's really these three words that the Course gives us to consider, which is teach only love.
Yeah.
There's an invitation in that, isn't there, for us to explore, to consider, to experiment with, I suppose. But it feels like that's what this is about. We're being asked to teach only love, and to let love teach us how to love, really.
Right.
That's the miracle.
Yes, those three words are well chosen. And the Course goes on to say, of course, that it's not simply through words that we teach, that we're teaching with our being, our essence, our vibration, our energy. That's the real teacher. And when we are in love, and I don't just mean romantic love, we're in the state of love consciousness, we are sending out energy that is literally blessing the entire universe, and especially affecting the people close to us. Here's another airport example. Many years ago, I was hustling through San Francisco airport, and I was busy, and I think I was late, and airports are pretty frenzied places often. and I noticed a man walking toward me. And by contrast, he had such serenity on his face, and he was just so relaxed, and there was like a glow around him, and he wasn't a priest. He just looked like a regular guy walking down the hallway. And the moment I saw him, I relaxed. And he just, my day was changed because of that vision. Now, he wasn't a holy man. He was just a guy at peace in that moment. And I thought, wow, I've just experienced a transformation by gazing upon the face of God, which is the face of anyone who is at peace. And Robert, that happened, I want to say 30 years ago. And I'm still talking about that guy. And once again, I don't think he was a guru or anybody special. He was just peace. And I've written about it in my book. So look at the mileage I've gotten out of that one moment. And that has been passed along to thousands of seminar students and book readers. So that's each of our power to transform the planet just by holding space for peace wherever we are.
Wow. That's so powerful. That is so powerful. And it's a great place, I think, to finish on in that it's, I really feel that the Course is encouraging us to step forward in our lives, to be here, to be the presence of love, to be the presence of peace, and to trust that the ripples of those decisions that we make may well end up in conversations in 30 years' time. Yeah. Between people, and that's a lovely thing to consider. Alan, I'm so grateful that we had this time to talk like this. Yet again, it's our friendship is an evolving conversation. I love every time we get a chance to speak. It's a great joy. Thank you very, very much for this opportunity.
And I want to honor you as well, Robert. When Hay House told me that you would be doing the interview, I jumped for joy. I was practically out of my chair because you're one of my dearest brothers, and I so deeply respect the work that you're doing as a teacher and author and parent and seminar leader. And, your contribution is absolutely paramount. And of course, I really want to honor Hay House for offering this summit too. It's a lovely venue to reach lots of people, and I want to thank our listeners for joining us. It really is a blessing to connect and share love in this way.
Yeah, Alan, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who has dropped by and listened to this conversation, to the meditation, to the prayer, to everything that we've shared. And as Alan says, there's another 99 interviews out there, so go pick something.
Lovely.
All right. God bless everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for the Hay House World Summit, brought to you by Hay House Radio. We're so glad that you're a part of our international community, and we hope to continue to inspire you to live your best life with messages from the world's leading experts in spirituality, health, and wellness. We wish you joy and blessings on your journey ahead.